So it's absolutely essential that people living with dementia remain active and healthy through their journey for as long as we can possibly achieve that. We tend to think about people living with an early diagnosis, then with moderate dementia, and then very with advanced dementia. And those are three very clearly defined areas. However, the edges blur because each person's experience is unique. So early, we would like people to be eating healthily, to be keeping active in terms of walking, but not only walking, keeping their brains active. The more active we can keep our residents or people living in the community's brains active, so doing things like jigsaws, Sudoku, crosswords, quizzes, those sorts of things will help people to keep active. It might be as simple as listening to an audiobook or listening to a favourite radio show, just helping that person to keep on thinking about the things that challenge their brain, that help them to be who they are. We all undertake cognitive stimulation therapy on a daily basis. We might read a paper, or we might listen to the news, or we might watch a documentary, we might do a crossword, we might do a jigsaw puzzle. That's all cognitive stimulation therapy. When we talk about it in the context of people living with dementia, we then need to tailor that to that individual. The evidence shows that we can keep people more able mentally and physically for longer if they have regular CST. As a person becomes more moderate with their dementia, then we may well be looking at adapting those activities so that they're a little bit more simple, but absolutely still achievable. And they tend to be much more linked to creative arts. So maybe performances, maybe musical performances, listening to music a little bit more perhaps than they have in the past, reminiscence activities to help that person to remember who they are, to maintain their sense of self.
So there's loads of activities you can do with individuals with dementia. Just because it's under the umbrella of an activity doesn't mean it has to be a song and dance. It can be everyday things that you enjoy to do, that give you purpose, that give you joy, that spark your interest. It could be that you absolutely love looking through your photo albums with your husband or wife or grandchildren when they come round, and it brings back all those memories and that accomplishment of those celebrations you've had. It could be looking through your wedding scrapbook and thinking back on all the memories that bring you joy and happiness.
Here when we do baking, the residents love it. They love to wake up in the morning and smell the bread cooking. It's all about smells, sensories, things that they used to do years ago before they were diagnosed with dementia. It's bringing back all those little memories. One little memory unfolds another memory.
There's a lot of apps you can get for your tablet that are actually dementia friendly, that they have the bigger screens for you to use if your eyesight becomes an issue. One of the great activities which really benefits people living with dementia is anything that's musical. It helps stimulate the mind, and the rhythm is the one thing that remains.
Doing singing for the brain is really helpful because it keeps people's right side of their brain active and helps them to communicate better. And we find that anything musical often is very beneficial to people, in the same way as arts and crafts can help people an enormous amount living with dementia. So looking at what's outside in the community and actually using those resources, gardening clubs, walking clubs, art groups, but being aware that that person might not be able to concentrate for a very long time, and therefore just being able to dip in and dip out, and understanding that sometimes big groups don't work for people living with dementia. The noise is too much. So being very in tune with your family member or the person that you're looking after living with dementia will help you to find the best service to support that person.
When she first came in, she wouldn't leave her room. I am not mixing, I'm not speaking to anybody, but they've made a real effort. She is getting involved in activities, and I turned up on Monday on Spec, and Kissing It Better are a charity. It was people from schools playing music. And in the family area, I couldn't see her. I thought she won't be in there. So I went straight through to her room, and I thought, where is she? Came back down, and John, one of the carers, said, she's in the activity room. And I looked through, and there she was. It's unbelievable. And they said, that's not the first time. So that's 4 weeks now. So little steps and the fact they're getting her to eat. So she needs to be integrating and socialising, because this isn't going anywhere, this dementia, but on their journey, they still need the stimulation.
Sometimes people think that just because somebody has dementia, they're not able to do things. There's a big phrase, if you don't use it, you lose it, which comes in care quite often, and it means basically you need to stay active and fit to maintain your independence. I think it's really important for people with dementia to stay as independent as possible. You want to be able to do things for yourself, and you don't want people to take over your life and do them for you, especially when you're able to yourself.
I was scared that things were going to escalate a lot quicker than what they have done. You read all the things about Alzheimer's and how it affects people, and I probably thought at the time, oh goodness, this is going to be it now for, but Mum actually carried on living she has carried on living a reasonably normal life.
Someone living with dementia, it's key for them to still be active and still be able to go out and get their morning paper and go to the shop and get their milk and bread like they do every other day or every day. Going out to get that fresh air, get the body moving and seeing familiar things as well, going down the high street. It's important to keep everything active.
I think exercise is really important. We encourage them to take part in lots of different activities that we have. So we do gentle exercise, we might do some Tai Chi, we might go for walks out in the garden, we go out into the community and go for walks around the parks.
So sometimes it can be very difficult to keep somebody fit and active at home if they haven't always been fit and active, if they've always been a little bit of a couch potato, or if they've got something like arthritis and every movement hurts. So we have to understand that people aren't always being awkward or difficult. There may well be a physical underlying problem that's making that person say, no, actually, I don't want to do this. Or it might be, actually, do you know what? I'm bored, I don't want to do that. I want to just watch my television programme. Or it's nice and warm in here and it looks very cold outside, so do you know what? I don't want to go out there either. It just depends on the individual. So keeping people fit and active at home is continuing to do the things that they normally do.
Activities are really important for people living with dementia, but actually we found that purposeful lifestyles are brilliant. It enables the resident living with dementia to still do the things that they would have done at home. So whether that's doing the laundry, helping with the washing up, folding napkins and tablecloths and then laying them out for lunch. It's something that we found is really, really good for people living with dementia. It gives them a sense of purpose.
Their routines are critical. We all have a routine that we follow Monday to Friday if we still work, and Saturday and Sunday when we're not working, dependent on what our job is. And so recognising those routines and trying to keep those routines in a loose fashion will help to keep that person fit and active. So if the person every morning got up, say at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they're waking at 7, but they normally had a cup of tea or a cup of coffee in bed, then keeping that routine will help to keep that person's sense of stability and feeling in control.
If someone with dementia is left to their own devices, they may start to do things that are slightly out of character. But if you keep up a routine with that individual, such as when they're getting up, supporting them to remind them where the bathroom is, showing them where the toothbrush is, enabling them to do things themselves, not taking over their lives for them, because when you've got dementia, it doesn't ordinarily mean you can't do things yourself. And I think the best part of dementia care is supporting them to do what they can for themselves, and also then supporting what they can't do themselves.
It's having the sense of purpose that if they've done something for 30 or 40 years, they're going to still want to do it. It's embedded in them that they would still want to bake that cake or do the hoovering or mow the lawn or go into their local group every week. And we will encourage that, and we should encourage that as well, making sure that everybody has a purpose, everybody has a meaningful life, a meaningful occupation.
their life doesn't end just because they've got dementia. They can still do everything that they used to do when they lived at home, or if they're in a care home. They could do anything. If they wanted to make their own cups of tea, there's no reason they couldn't do that. If they wanted to do their own ironing, then it gives them that sense of purpose, and they've accomplished something and achieved something that they would normally do every day at home. It gives them that sense of purpose and makes them feel proud of what they're doing.
Keeping a person in control of their life and helping them to do the things that would be normal for them is critical. It might well be that we move into the kitchen in the morning and it's quicker to actually give a person a bowl of cereal. That's what they normally have. Put it down in front of her. But actually what's really important for her is the bit of taking the box, looking inside the box, opening the packet, tipping it up or putting her hand inside and getting out what she wanted was more important to her than just getting a bowl of crunchy nut cornflakes put in front of her. So those little rituals are critical for us to know so that we don't take over that person's life. Because if you take out the stages for that person's normal breakfast habit, then they might not eat their breakfast. In the same way as if we give somebody porridge and you just plonk it down in front of them, actually sometimes there's something about stirring the porridge, making the porridge the way that you want it, that's much more important to them than the actual eating of the porridge.
Anything in their life that they're previously interested in. I tend to find out previous hobbies, previous jobs they have. If it was a hobby of painting, try and continue that. As much stimulation as possible, but definitely something with an interest in the past I find is very, very helpful. Very helpful.
Pet therapy is amazing for people living with dementia. It brings back memories of like a childhood dog or a pet, anything that they used to have when they were growing up or as they had their children, and it brings back special memories of that. It's both sensory and meaningful to the individual.
The lifestyle team plan activities around our residents. They do have activities where residents are moving, and we have exercises and we have garden walks, and the activities generally are tailored to what residents would like, but then at the same time tailored to their abilities.
For me and my nan and the family, we found that she was very active at the beginning, so we would go to the hairdressers, we could go out for meals, we could go to the garden centre, and as time we could see that those things maybe became a little bit more difficult, so we adapted the activities to quite simply sitting down with a cup of tea and a photo book and really talking about those key memories, and for us it was equally important for us to find joy and happiness in the smaller things as it was for Nan to be happy about those smaller things, not to try and compare to, oh well, a few months ago we used to be able to do this, we used to be able to that. It's accepting the journey that you go on and thinking, well, this is where we are now and we're enjoying this moment.
As a person progresses into the very advanced stages of their dementia, all the way through we want to keep them as physically active as they possibly can be and as mentally active as they can possibly be, but now they're gradually slowing down. And at that point we tend to introduce Namaste Care. This is a very sensory approach to supporting a person. They're very gentle sessions, and they include not only comforting touch, so physical touch, but also stimulating all of the senses. And we very often will help family carers to actually get engaged and involved in Namaste sessions, training them to actually be able to support their family member so that they can sit and continue Namaste in their bedrooms or in their own homes.
Namaste is extremely important for people living with dementia. It's not only a time for them to enjoy relaxing and calm, it's got sensory elements to it which really help accentuate the whole experience. It's a really intimate time for a resident living with dementia just to have kind of 15 minutes of having stimulation by having massage, hot towels, hand massages, one-on-one or in a group.
Namaste gives us a real opportunity to slow everything down and enable that person to be themselves, to have that physical comforting touch and to have additional hydration and nutrition. We have seen some incredible results as a result of that, in terms of people starting to speak when they'd stopped speaking, perhaps being able to sing again, and to be able to be a little bit more dexterous, to be able to do things with their hands that they perhaps hadn't done, including feeding themselves. Often people have challenges around eating and drinking. One of the most common ones is believing that if they drink too much that they might need to go to the toilet more often. What's really important is that we keep people hydrated, and there is a tendency for people living with dementia to have more of a prevalence of getting infections. So hydration is very, very important. The other side of things is that we often, early in a person's diagnosis with dementia, may well see them starting to lose weight. And often it's because they've changed their tastes or they forget to eat and drink. So making sure that food is available in a way that is tempting and enticing is always important. So it may well be that you might have a bowl of fruit on the side, but a person never picks up an apple and eats it that way. But if you cut it up for them, they may well eat it. Or if you present them with a small number of grapes washed, then they may well eat those, but they might not take them from the bowl. So once somebody has started to progress with their journey with dementia, it's starting to think, how can we entice people to eat a little bit more often, and not overload their plate, or make sure when they're walking around that suddenly they come across something nice, something tasty to eat, or interspersing the day with little snack breaks so that they regularly have something that is going to keep them feeling nourished and hydrated.
A lot of people who live with dementia might not realise that they're hungry or thirsty, or they might overeat and overdrink. So we have to be very careful how we deal with this. For people that are not eating and drinking properly, we need to encourage them. It could be through using clear glasses so they can see what they're drinking. It could be by grazing rather than full meals. And it's also about working out what time they want to eat, because when we're living with dementia, we might not realise it's the middle of the night, but that might be when we're hungry. And we need to make sure that we're giving the food when the person requires it, not when we traditionally feel we should.
If you were caring at home for somebody living with dementia, small and often bite-sized food. Some people living with dementia might not like meals, so snacky food, finger food. Also making sure that it's food that they liked in the past, childhood favourites, what their mum used to make, things like that, so they can remember.
At Care UK, we believe in dining with dignity, and that means that any resident, whatever their barrier is, can dine and still feel like they're having a quality experience. So this starts with protected meal times, where we don't disturb the resident during the meal. We don't administer medication during a meal. We can also invite residents' family members to join them for a meal, so it's as natural environment as possible. We also look at the style of food we serve. So again, it's the itsy food, the finger food, regular food, whether the food is the right type of food for the area that we're in. So we have no national menu. All of our menus are bespoke to each home because they're made by the resident.
The main thing at mealtimes is to make sure that they are able to make their own choices. Even if they aren't able to communicate verbally, we have the show plates so they're able to see the food, smell the food, and make that choice based on that, rather than just reading from a menu, which not everyone will be able to do.
The idea behind a show plate is we make 2 plates of food with the 2 options. It gives them a complete 360 so they can see the size of the food, they can smell the food. So every sense can be involved and they can make an informed decision on what they'd like to eat rather than us making a decision on what we think they'd like to eat.
Dining with dignity is something every care home should practice. They should have the same rights, presentation as restaurants. It should be well cooked, it should be nutritious, and also the correct cutlery. You may have some people that struggle with normal knife and forks and spoons, so you'll have adaptive cutlery, adaptive cups, things like that.
With Mealtimes, it's just about the encouragement, creating a nice, homely atmosphere, a little bit of music on in the background, good conversation starters to make them feel like they're both dining in a restaurant and have that experience, but also in the comfort of their own homes.
At KUK, we have individual, tailored catering plans, and each person is treated as an individual. And I would suggest, if you're looking after someone at home, don't try and do one size fits all. Everyone's on a different journey and they're at a different stage, and there's also their individuality. So it's about working with the person.